Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Take a Stand. This is the show that you need to dial into if you want to hear from inspirational women from all over the globe. They're going to be telling their stories of inspiration, motivation, and really heartfelt stories of how they've overcome adversity to achieve success across their business, their family, and their life. Today's guest, oh my gosh, you guys, you want to tune in and actually listen to what my guest has got to say. Her name is Loretta Caliborne. She was born in 1953 with physical and intellectual disabilities. Loretta didn't actually walk or talk until she was the age of 4, and the doctors actually told her mother that Loretta belonged in an institution because she would never be able to survive in the, let's call it, regular world. Today, Loretta is a multi medal winner for the Special Olympics. She has, when you hear her story, you're going to go like, oh my goodness, what an amazing and inspirational woman. She discovered her passion early in life, and she's since completed 26 marathons, earning her personal best of 3 hours and 3 seconds during the 1982 Boston Marathon. Like I said, she's won medals across dozens and dozens of Special Olympics events. And in addition to running, she actually holds a 4th degree black belt in karate, and she continues to be a multi sports competitor in multiple different sports. When you hear the number of sports that this woman has been a medalist in, you're going to go, oh my gosh, that just blows my mind. She's a motivational speaker who now travels the world to with international leaders. She speaks with international leaders all over the world, teachers and students, promoting inclusion and respect for all abilities. So I want you guys to tune in, listen up really carefully to what Loretta has got to say today, because honestly, I know that her message is going to be probably a bit of a tearjerker at times, because I've listened to some of the other things that she's spoken about, but also hugely inspiring. So just listen up, because you're in for a real treat today. So hang about. We're going to be back in about 1 minute, and I'll have the amazing Loretta Caliborne on the show with me, and she'll be sharing with you her entire story. So hang about. Hey, good morning, everybody, and thanks very much for tuning in. You guys should have just heard that intro about Loretta, and boy, oh boy, I know that you guys are in for a treat today. Her and I have just been having a little bit of a chat behind the scenes. I've done research on her. Wow, what an inspirational and amazing story this woman has, that I know is going to really make a real difference to you today. So I want to say welcome to the show, Loretta. It is an absolute honor and a privilege to have you here.
Well, thank you.
Well, let's have a little bit of a chat about, this particular show. I was telling Loretta about what we do here that is about women taking a stand, but also their inspirational, motivational, like heartfelt stories about how they've come to be where they are today. And Loretta's life, like if we go back, back to the 1950s, I believe, Loretta, if I've got that decade correct, that you were born and you had some challenges right from the get-go. So let's sort of fill the audience in on a little bit about you, a bit of your background, and a little bit about what you're doing today.
Yes, I was born in the early 50s, and of course my mother had 7 other natural children, and at the time it was now, as she was having her babies, she would go and have her babies, and then she was having me, and doctor looked at her and says, you know, Miss Claiborne, this baby's going to be different. It's a big old bouncy baby, but she's born blind, and you might have to institutionalize this baby. Well, my mom was a big, broad woman herself, and she looked at the doctor, and she said, you let me take care of my babies, and you do your job. So as long as it's a God, I'm going to take care of my babies. So, of course, then she had me, and then, of course, my other sisters followed through. There was 2 boys and 5 girls. There was 2 that didn't make it into the world, and years later, we adopted one. So as time went by, my mother knew it was going to be tough. So from a little kid on, I went on to elementary school just like any other kid. And then I was starting to be held back in class. I was held back my first 3 years in school. So, of course, you know what happens to a kid. They get bullied. If you're the big kid that's 3 years older and you're still in 2nd grade, everyone's going to pick on you. And, of course, I was angry, and I used my fist. By the way, I did not know anything about martial arts or anything. That all came later. And I never forget my mom telling me, you don't go to school to fight, you go to school to learn. But my mom was tough on me. If I would have a problem with something, she would tell my sisters, no, Loretta's got to stand on her own 2 feet. Just like you have to stand on yours, Loretta's going to stand on hers. And she was tough. I mean, my mother was, like I said, a big, broad woman, but she had a heart that everyone knew to come to the Caliborne house. Everyone in that project, a housing project, what we call government housing, everyone knew to come to my mom's. And my mom only wanted to do 3 things. She wanted you to respect her home. She wanted you to respect her kids. And the same way from us. When we went to somebody else's home, we had to respect their home and respect their ways or their culture of their home. And as time went by, of course, she was called on to have me tested, and she had me tested, and the school officials said, you know, Miss Claiborne, you need to institutionalize Loretta because she's not going to make it. We got some of the finest schools in Pennsylvania. So my mother and I, we went to visit the schools. I remember Loretta State School and Hospital. That was up near State College, which is now closed, in Eastern State School and Hospital. And so that time came, that summer was ending, and I remember the knock coming on the door. I still remember the man's name. And he said, Miss Claiborne, had you made a decision on what school you're going to send Loretta? She says, no, I hadn't. He says, well, we're going to have a meeting at the school administration building. So my mom and I, they gave her a time. We went to the school administration building. I was sitting there. My mother was sitting there. And she finally said, the gentleman said to her, oh, well, had you chosen the school? You've been to some of the best schools. She says, yeah, I chose the school, all right. You got a special education class over there at Ferguson School. And guess what? My child ain't going nowhere. You're going to educate my child in the city schools. As long as you got a special education class, my child's going to get an education. My mom's goal was for me to graduate. It wasn't the best, but I got taught it a lot by kids in the project. And of course, I would fight my way through. And as time went by, I'll never forget, I went on to high school. It got a little better, but not much. And as I got into high school, the girls, this was before the law called Title IX, where girls have the same right as boys to practice or train or be a part of an event. Our girls in our high school says, we want to start a track team. So they knew they had to get signatures from the teacher. They knew that they had to raise money. Well, the school sold candy bars. And that was to go to student activities, which would have been the girls' track team. So I sold more candy bars than anybody. And these girls came to me and says, Loretta, we need to have signatures from Mr. Eckenroe, who was the principal there, and the school teachers. So I went around the classes every day after school. I had to make my round around and get teachers to sign this petition. Well, finally they says, yes, you guys can run in the hallway. And we were like saying, well, what about small field, which we call the middle field? Oh, no, that's reserved for boys. So then our teacher left us go down. We watched the boys, and my cousin was running on a team, and these boys start calling me names. And I'll never forget it. My cousin stopped the guys from running because he was really good. He could have went to the Olympics. And my cousin Pierre says, Loretta, I'm going to fix these guys. You're going to run the mile, and I'm going to fix them. So we started around. These guys who were hounding me, the first lap, they were getting tired. And I just kept running the second lap. By the time I got to the second lap, those guys were done. And my cousin says, mess with my cousin again. I guess she showed you. I had no problem out of those boys after that.
Yeah, so you showed them up with your stamina and your tenacity to just keep going. Like, I mean, what's really interesting, as I was sort of reading your story, your mother has had such a, like, what an amazing woman to.
And she raised us single-handedly. There was no man in the house.
And some of the stories that you tell about your mum and what she did, and I think the morals that she had instilled in you, I want to go back to those because I think they're really important, even in today's world. And one of the stories you were telling was, I want to say the word pig, because it was a story about a pig, and not a regular pig that you would, the wink wink type of pig, right? So it was, you were telling the story about your mother and how when you were growing up and she said to you something about a pig and the way in which you must respect and you must address a pig. And I think you know where I'm coming at when I'm sort of.
The only story I know about a pig is about the pink pigs that I make for law enforcement.
Yeah, well, that's exactly where I'm going with this, because you were telling a story about your mum and about police officers quite some time ago when you were a young girl, and there was
the park.
Yeah, it was like, oh, now I know what you're talking about.
It was during the riots.
During the riots.
That is 1969 riots. Hadn't started yet, but the things were flaring up in the town. And of course, we were on curfew. It was called martial law. They would make an announcement at 8 o'clock. You would hear this bell. Everybody was in the house. And the lights would go out. Boop, just like that. And I remember one time we were at the park playing some basketball. We lived near this old school. It's still there, Jefferson. And the kids across the street and I, of course, I didn't mesh well with the girls, always hung around with the guys. So we were over shooting basketball. And then we were sitting on the bench waiting for some other guys to come over. And my mom lived right across the street from the park. And one of the guys says, yo, look, there's a pig. And my mom jumped up. She hollered. I mean, she didn't even have to really get up. Her mouth just rippled. Few choice words. You get over here right now. And I come over, and it wasn't me. It was one of the boys that said a pig was coming because they saw a cop car. Mm-hmm. My mom just grilled into me. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something right now. I don't care what's going down in these streets. You my child. You don't call no cop no pig. You understand? Let me tell you something about that right now. And I was telling this story at a law enforcement conference. Mm-hmm. And my mom says, you can't live without the police, so you better learn to live with them. If something goes down here, who's the first people you're going to call? You're going to call the cops. So let that be an understanding. I said, but I didn't say anything. That was so-and-so. And the guy did come over and says, Miss Caliborne, that was me. He said, I just want to make you understand that you don't do that. So I was talking about this at this law enforcement torch run conference. Mm-hmm. And the cop stood up and said to me, Miss Caliborne, don't fret. Because we took that negative word, which was a negative word, and we made it a positive word. Yeah. And I went in on this stage. It was in 2017. And the cop said, the word pig was a negative, but we decided we're not going to go against the grain. We're going to go with it. And the word means pride, integrity, and guts.
Yeah.
So he took a negative and turned it around into a positive. If we could do that today, wouldn't it be nice?
Exactly.
But there are some things you cannot change.
And that is exactly why I wanted to go down that path, because when I heard that story, like today's topic, right, is about like running to change the world and how to use your unique abilities to actually make a change in the world. And at that moment, even though that was, you know, that now I understand it was actually a police officer who kind of tweaked on that I need to go with the flow, I need to go with the grain. I'm not going to try and go against it. We'll just use that word and turn what is normally perceived as a really negative thing, let's take that and turn it into a positive. And when I heard you talking about those, you know, that acronym of PIG being, you know, pride, integrity, and having guts, and you really embodied that. You were saying, well, yeah, what everything that I have pride in what I do. I stand by with integrity, and I have the guts to just keep going and make things happen. You had the guts to stand up to those boys and go, well, you know, you guys are you know, bailing out at round number 2. I'm just going to keep on going, and you can you know, you can eat my dust, so to speak. You watch me. And I also recognize that your mother had such a impact on your life, because she could have been one that said, yeah, you're right. Yes, I'm not going to be able to handle this. Yes, you're right. I should put Loretta into an institution, but she didn't. You know, she stood up and said, I'm going to take a stand for this, and it's my baby. I can bring up my children, and, you know, you do your job and I'll do mine. And she's done a wonderful job at that. Then you being able to recognize at some point in your life that you had a unique skill, and that unique, well, probably turned more from a skill into a passion, right? You knew you could run, and you could run and run and run. So tell us about that. And I think you were alluding to that when sort of that schoolyard situation where, hey, you know, we've got a Title IX where we're going to have the opportunity for women to be able to run track, and your cousin stepping up again, taking a stand for you and saying, get out of the road. I'm going to make some way for Loretta. And Loretta, you go. You know, he opened the door and you just went for it. So tell us more about that, and how did that then lead to? Well,
my running started way before that.
Oh, well, tell us about that.
When I was 12 years old, we had a big field beside our house. In fact, that field is still there because I run out by those projects all the time. And we had this field. My brother Hank, he was a cross-country runner, and he bonded well with the guys on the track team. And they had a super team. And I remember them going down to Smalls Field, what we called Meadow Field, bringing the hurdles up. And all those guys were running around on the hurdles and doing different things in the field. And Hank would run around the field, and I would follow Hank. And then my mom says, Loretta, you don't need to be out there with those boys. Well, I didn't mesh in with the girls, so I hung around my big brother. So she was kind of cool with that. Well, then I start running around the project. And the rule was I could not leave the project. And this project sits on several acres. So my brother Hank, he ended up leaving. Time went by. He went into the service. He went in the military. The cousin who started, you know, got after those guys, he ended up being the chief of police in a city called Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. He's now retired. But I kept up the running, and my brother says, you're still running. Why don't you give that up? Well, I use my running for a different passion. I use it to stay fit. It gives me time to think. When I get upset and angry about something, I go out and run, and then I can think it over. I did martial arts for many years. As time went by, I used to compete in martial arts, the same as I did in Special Olympics, and go to all these tournaments. And then the AIDS situation came in. And they were saying if you get scratched or you could transfer blood. So I stopped my competition immediately in the mid-'80s. I said, I'm done. I looked at my instructor. I said, I'm not competing again. I'll teach other students, I'll ref, but I will not compete, because I was fearing that if somebody would scratch me, you don't know where the next person comes from. And when I started running at the age of 12, not quite 13, I started with my brother, and I still do it today. My sensei, he passed away a little over a year ago, not quite 2 years ago. So I don't do competition anymore. But I was always one of those people who didn't have a lot of friends, but I had my things that I did, and I took what I did and I did it for the love of it and for the joy of it. I did the competitive part of it. Now I'm back to enjoying it.
Mm. I remember also in one of your talks, you were talking about, you know, these inspirational that some of these people that have had such an impact on your life. And there was one woman, and I think her name was Mrs. Shriver, and she was a teacher of yours. And I want to today's show, I really want people to, I suppose, understand, you know, big thing that you talk about is unitedness, like being united, being just embracing and acknowledging that we are all different, but yet we are all one. We have one heart, one mind, one world, one people. You know, and it's the same.
Come in different colors, but we're all one. We all have blood of red. I hadn't known a baby been born with blood of green yet.
Yeah, and
all children of God. I mean, and I used to be a really angry person. I used to always said, I'm going to fight my way through life. That's just the way I thought. I'll fight my way through life. Well, you don't get nowhere fighting your way through life, but two places, 6 feet under or behind somebody's bars. And I remember Mrs. Reaver, when I came to her class, I was a broken child. And I remember her sitting there looking at the other 7 students, says, Harold, I want you to put your pencil down. I want all of you to put your pencils down. Harold, start drawing, put your pencil down. This is Loretta, and she's going to be a part of our class. Well, after 3 or 4 or 5 unsuccessful years in school, I was looking at a new teacher that was going to probably not like me. And she said that I was going to be a student in her class. I sat down. The next thing I know, I got up, went to the corner and started crying. She got me, she sat me down, and she talked to me. And I would never smile. And she used to always say, Loretta, smile. It takes less muscles. Mm-hmm. I mean, she was a teacher. She didn't teach arithmetic and stuff like that. She had to teach so much of that. But she was way ahead of her time. She prepared her students on how it's going to be like when you go to the next level. In other words, when you go to high school, she would prepare us for real life skills. And when I hear the word life skills today, Mrs. Reaver was way ahead of her time, because we're talking about the 60s. And I remember her having this big chart. And on this chart, anything you did wrong, you got an X. And it was a competition. She started it in September, and she explained it. So when you got up in class and you passed somebody, first of all, may I please get up? You had to use your manners. Excuse me, please, when you pass somebody. If you're waiting for your turn to ask the question, you held your hand up, well, somebody would, I know that answer. Then they would get a check mark. And it got down to me and one other young man. And the young man, what he did, he was writing and he turned around and he belched as loud as he could be. If he would have said, excuse me, and gave an exclamation, he wouldn't have got the check. But he got the check. I won, and I knew I was going to win. And that, for a whole year, that was better than any medal. But that came from home. That came from Rita Claiborne's house. Because when you came in her house, and if you would have belched like that, you would say, excuse me, or pardon me, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. She didn't tolerate that. If you would have came in her house and sat at her table and not washed your hands, she was on to it. And we didn't have a lot. But she wanted you to be prepared. And when you went out her door, I remember one time I was going to school and I was flying down the steps because my sister was lollygagging in the bathroom, primping, and she was doing her hair and looking. And they're going out the door. I run up in the bathroom. I brush my teeth, wipe my face, and my mom catches me. And she says, where are you going? I said, I'm going to be late because Debbie took up all the time. I want to catch up with them. I don't want to be late for school. She looked at me and she says, I don't care what you think you want to do, but I want you to go back up in that bathroom. I want you to look in that mirror, and I want you to look at that head. So I picked up the brush. I combed my hair back. I had my ponytail, combed my hair back, and I came back down the step. She says, now you look like you can go out my door. Let me tell you something. When you leave my house, I want you to look your best, then you feel your best, and then you could be your best. Look your best, feel your best, and you could be your best. Well, and I think we're losing a lot of that today.
Yeah. And this is why I wanted to talk about this, because these stories that I've heard you speak of before, they are very relevant today. You talked about the riots. Well, we may not have, necessarily the same level of, well, in some places we do, the same level of rioting that we're seeing, but we're seeing the same sort of, dissatisfaction. The people are agitated in places. So, having those things that your mother instilled in you, being pride, integrity, the guts, even though you heard that from a police officer, that was what your mother was instilling that into you each and every day. Pride in yourself, look good when you walk out of this house, feel good, do good, all of those things, which have made you the person that you are today. I also wanted to talk about when you were born with unique abilities or unique disabilities, and being told that, or your mum being told that, hey, Loretta should go into an institution, and you not having a lot of challenges, like not being able to see. I want people to understand that the women we're looking at today and the amount of change that you have made in the world through one woman doing, simple things, using your manners, standing up for yourself, driving yourself forward, having the courage to do things that most people wouldn't do, how that can make a real change. But also, secondly, when you hear a lot of the stories about the people that you've had in your life, that I think we have a choice to make here. And that choice is, when we're looking at other people, we can look and see the negatives, or we can look and see the beauty and the love inside. And I remember the story that you were telling about the teacher that had been told a whole lot of things about, the student that's coming to your class will be this, 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 and this, and then her choosing to see differently. So I want people to understand that today we have a choice to make. And that choice is that we can actually see everybody. We can see us as being united, or we can see us being segregated. And if we can look and we see the beauty and the love and the unique abilities that each and every person has, then you too will have the opportunity to open a door for that person. Because as you're telling these stories, there are multiple people that have stood up for you in front of you and have almost like opened the door, and then you've been ready there to, I'm not going to say step through it, I'm going to say run through it, because you absolutely ran through every door that has been opened for you. I want you to tell the story about the Greyhound and about how there was an opportunity for you to learn some different things. Like, there's been multiple stories where you've told, where you've said, I don't think I'm ready for that. I can't do that. So maybe there's a couple of stories, Loretta, that you could share with us where there have been moments where you thought, I don't think I'm capable of doing that, but somebody else.
That's when I first got on the board of directors.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So today, Loretta's actually on the board of directors for the Special Olympics. So let's talk about how that came about.
Actually, in 1982, Special Olympics Pennsylvania was in Pennsylvania Special Olympics, wanted me to serve on the board of directors. And I had an advocate at the time, Miss Janet McFarland. She's now deceased. And I get this letter, and I look at it, and I said, I can't do this. And Miss Janet sits there. She was always about prim and proper, and she was just a neat person. And she had worked for the Ark of Harrisburg for our then Governor Thornburg. She was hired on to work for the ARC, was at that time the Association for Retarded Citizens. Now they removed that, it's just the ARC. So I said to her, I said, well, Miss Janet, they want me to be on the board of directors. And I said to her, I don't know if I want to try it. And I had just met Mrs. McFarland. She says, well, Loretta, you should try it. So I went to the first board meeting. I got on the Greyhound bus. I went up to Harrisburg. Somebody picked me up because it was in Hershey. And I went in and I had my nice little dress on, the stuff I bought at the thrift shop. And I sat at the meeting, and these people were sitting in suits and stuff. And of course, you could tell they were wealthy. And I was getting intimidated by that. And I was not a speaker. I'm not the kind of person who would just talk. Now I can talk a tin ear off of somebody. But at that time, I sat at the board meeting, and I came home. Miss Janet picked me up. She came up to Hershey and picked me up. She says, how was your meeting? I said, it was okay. I said, but they want me to speak about the athletes. So I put my hand up once, and they said, we'll get to you. So then I went to the next board meeting. And these meetings you have 4 of them a year. So I sat there nicely, and I had my notes written down, and I wanted to ask a question, and I put my hand up. Then again, they didn't answer me. So I wrote a nice little note. I was really frustrated. I looked at Miss Janet. I said, Miss Janet, I can't do this. And I wrote them a note that I resigned from the board of directors, that I will not be back. And I told them, I said, I will not be back at this board meeting because I don't think I'm a part of this board meeting. And I thought I was supposed to be a person who was supposed to speak about the athletes. Well, they never even said nothing about the athletes. So in 1989, I get another letter. Welcome to the Board of Special Olympics for Pennsylvania Special Olympics. And I looked at Miss Janet and I said, no. She says, Loretta, you know how you are about quitting things. I said, well, I remember my mom saying to me when I first got to Special Olympics, I told her I quit, and she says, don't tell me you quit something. Don't tell me you quit. Because if you quit today, you'll always be quitting. My mom had all these little sayings. And so I said to Miss Janet, well, I'm quitting because I didn't even start yet. I was on that board and I didn't even start yet. So she looks at me, she says, sit and take a deep breath and listen to me. At least give it a try. Give it one more try. So I went to the board meeting. She took me up. I didn't have to get on the bus. She went to Hershey shopping somewhere because there's all these stores around Hershey. And I stood up and I introduced myself. I said, my name's Loretta Caliborne. And I had this invitation that was asked to come onto your board. I would like to give it a chance. I was on your board in 1982. It's 1989 now. I said, but I'm going to be here to speak on behalf of my fellow athletes. And I didn't have no problem after that. And I served on that board. I served well over my term. And when I went to get off the board, because you can only serve so many consecutive terms, they were really upset. And I went to the international board, which I still serve on. And I'm the Chief Inspirational Officer for Special Olympics globally. So it was just one of those things. There again, it was a person who was giving me and basically pushing me, saying, give it another try. Mm-hmm. And that's what Eunice Kennedy Shriver said. When she held her first games in 1968, she had lost one brother in 63. Martin Luther King was killed. Then her second brother. Did you know she held those games right after her second brother was killed? Because she was determined as a woman during that time. They could have easily said, oh, no, you can't do this. She was determined that she was going to hold these games. And when I think about it, for people who weren't even accepted into our society, most of them were hidden away or in institutions. Here's this woman, one woman, a group of people behind her. Nobody does anything by themselves. but she was the band leader, says, I'm going to do this. And who would ever thought that Special Olympics would be here today? Almost 6 million athletes. I was in a meeting this morning talking about the health care of people with intellectual disability. I was in a 2-hour meeting this morning with Dr. Tim Shriver, that's Eunice's son. And to see that one person, she was determined, and she was a woman. And still, in the late 60s, to be a woman. Mm-hmm. Remember, there was no Title IX when she started these games. She had a passion, and she was determined. When I went to Abu Dhabi, they say when I first went there, it was kind of scary because you're in another part of the world where women aren't as valued. But when I went to Abu Dhabi and met the Crown Prince, and he said, I want people of determination to have everything that everyone else has. I want people of determination to go to my schools, meaning people with intellectual disability. Just the term, for a Crown Prince to change that term, that shows good honor and respect to a group of people in such a short time. Because you got to remember, Abu Dhabi was only built in 1972, 71, and how this man is just changing the culture for all people. And it's the same with Eunice Kennedy Shriver, how she changed the culture on how people see and view people with intellectual disability. And today I own my own home. And do I still have problems? I never forget when I tried to apply for a credit card. In 2007, I bought my home in the late 90s, paid it off. I went to a bank, and because I travel, it used to be you could go to a hotel and put $20 down for essentials. Well, they decided to phase that out, and they wanted people to have credit cards. So I went to my local bank, and I said, I'd like to have a credit card. So they gave me the papers. I filled it out and everything. I set it in. And $500 credit card is all I wanted. Enough to pay for my hotel essentials. Nothing else. I get this letter saying, you don't qualify. So the second time I filled out the paper, I went back to the bank. I said, ma'am, I was denied. Why? I bought my home through your bank. I paid it off. And so this lady just kind of was taking me around the circle. I always say, take me across the grill. Mm-hmm. And I looked at her. I said, ma'am, don't let me come here a third time. I bought my home from you. You never had a late bill. I bought my home outright from you. Do I owe this bank anything? Nothing. So I went down the second time. There was a gentleman standing there, and a lady behind the counter who was working with him said, Miss Caliborne, would you like to see somebody in the back? I said, yes. So she thought I was going back to see somebody about, getting a box to put in the bank for you put your papers in. I had to buy one of those bank boxes. And so the lady didn't know that, but this man was standing there, and she was giving him about owing them money or being back in the bill. So finally I go back, I get called back, and I said, Miss, I'm here concerning the credit card. They said, it didn't go through. I said, no, this is the second time. It's not going to be a third time. And I looked at the lady. I said, I bought my home from this bank. Never had a trouble on me. I don't want to play my race card. I said, I carry a deck of cards in my pocket, and I call them my race cards. Don't let me have to use one. It's just a saying. And I don't think it's that. I said, you think that I cannot handle a credit card? I said, a $500 credit card is a drop in the bucket. Mm-hmm. So don't let me come to this bank again. Not that I have much. I said, because there's other banks. Next thing I know, I get a letter. Congratulations on your new $10,000 credit card. Yeah, wow. Bank. I take this credit card down. I said, I don't need a $10,000 credit card. I need a $500 credit card, just enough to pay for my hotel. I said, you're not going to call me for trouble. This is a trick for me to use this, and then I owe you. I'm never going to be tied to your string. Don't worry about it. I bet you she gave me a $500 credit card.
Yeah. Well, look, that's just
Go through the day. That's what women go through.
Yeah, it is. But the thing is, what you've done, Loretta, throughout every, part of your life with all of these stories is go, well, I'm coming back to like integrity. I have integrity. I'm going to do the right thing, and that doing the right thing and having manners and, standing up for yourself and standing firm, and then being able to, as we say on the show, we stand out. You've been able to get to a point where you have success across multiple areas of your life, being able to go to the Olympics and perform and participate in multiple different disciplines of sport, being able to, despite the odds and despite being told that, you're not going to be able to read, you're not going to be able to write, that you were able to do all of those things, being somebody who's been on the board of director and still is on the board of directors for the Special Olympics, being invited to share your message with the likes of Nelson Mandela, the Pope, five US presidents, from Reagan right the way through to Obama. So the things that one woman, and I think there's also been multiple instances where you've shared the stories today, where just being one person who is prepared to stand up, stand firm, and then start to stand out in whatever it is that you believe in can start to change the world. And like today's show is all about, is running to change the world. You using that unique gift that you had and that determination of I'm going to run, and then that using that skill to start changing the way in which people are looked at, the way that the world comes together as one, the way that we unify and that we start making changes is truly inspirational. I want to thank you for sharing all of those stories today. I want to leave today with giving you the opportunity to share maybe 2 or 3 things that you think are paramount to if you were giving somebody else some advice on 2 or 3 things that they could do to ensure that they have success in whatever area of their life that they want it in, what would that be? What would your
success come from within? Success comes from what within yourself. You can be successful in such a small thing. Maybe just looking at somebody. I do it all the time. I like to go running and I say hi to people, or I wave my hand and I count and see how many people say hi or wave their hand back or nod their head. And I was telling Tim Shriver this 2 weeks ago. I said hi to 20 people and I waved my hand. I'm standing on the corner. I'm running. Hello. And I think I got 4 responses back. And I thought to myself, it's really sad, because what does it take to nod a head, shake a hand? And during this time where people are so stressed and down because of this pandemic, it doesn't take much. But success comes from within. And when I mean success, like I like to knit. And I knit these little preemie hats, and I must have made almost 1,000 in the last year. And I just give them out to hospitals. So I will never see one of those babies who are premature. I do 3 or 4 hospitals. I would never see none of the ladies who lose their breast to cancer, and I make the little thing that fits inside the bra. But that's success to me. Success that I can give back to somebody else in my own unique way. Doesn't cost a lot of money. You can go to Mission and buy yarn. Of course, I have to buy special yarn for my babies and my knitted knockers. But to me, that is me being successful within my own right, being my best, not comparing myself to somebody else. And that's when I say success comes from within. And there are so many people doing so many good things. You don't hear about them. You hear about all the negativity. But don't let the negativity draw you away from being successful from within yourself. If it's just you making a difference in one person's life, it might spill over to 2 or 3. Mahatma Gandhi didn't do it all by himself. Mother Teresa didn't do it all by herself. Eunice Kennedy Shriver didn't do it all by herself. Loretta Caliborne didn't do it all by herself. It took a mother, it took a teacher, it took people along the way, a counselor. It took many people along the way. I look at Dr. Linda Meyer. When I'm upset, I didn't want to get the shot. And I talked to people because I had this, oh, I'm not letting nobody stick me with this needle. But then I thought to myself, is this for me? Or is this for me to protect somebody else? And it's the same way when I wear my face covering, my mask, when I go in the store. It just annoys me when I see somebody not wearing a mask. And so some guy looked at me and says, you always got that thing on your face. I said, you know what? My rights don't stand when I hurt somebody else's rights. So I'm wearing this mask because not that I won't get COVID, so you don't get COVID. And I expect you to wear a mask so I don't get COVID or she doesn't get COVID. So my rights stop when I impede on somebody else's rights, especially when it comes to my health. And I said to the guy, the mask isn't just for me, it's for the safety of all.
I want to thank you so much for sharing your story. And I'm going to encourage other people to actually go to YouTube and look up Loretta Caliborne and just listen to some of the talks that she has done. They are truly inspirational. You will be inspired and motivated by what she has been speaking about. And we've had the opportunity, just like, you know, President Obama and Warren Buffett and Oprah and Dr. Oz, she's spoken with all of them, you know, individually. Today, you've had the opportunity to hear firsthand from Loretta Caliborne too about her inspiring story. And just, you know, we have a choice today to be a silent bystander and just allow other people to, you know, keep the doors shut. Or you have the choice to be able to step forward, stand up and open the doors for others and see the beauty in other people and really embrace everybody's uniqueness and the wonderful people that they are so that we can stand united. So I want to say thank you so much for being on today's show, Loretta. It has been an absolute privilege and an honor to have you here. And I'm so pleased that you had that you said yes to coming on the Take a Stand show. Thank you to everybody else who's watching today's show. I hope you found this truly inspirational, as I have, as I've continued to have conversations with Loretta behind the scenes. And I'm going to be back again with another inspiring, motivating woman next Wednesday at the same time, 10 a.m. Brisbane, Australia time. So I want to say thank you very much for watching, and we'll be back again very, real soon. Have a wonderful week, everybody. Thanks, Loretta.
Thank you.